Chapter 2, The Representative. On my way back home, the conversation continued and I started paying attention. There was something about her telling me that years ago she would have thrown her whole house away for some good old penis that put a pause in me. I was supposed to say something about it right then and there, but I was driving and you know texting and driving is a crime. I just turned up the music and took advantage of the unlimited mileage. I can't tell you how long it took me to get home, but when I finally did, she already knew. I say that because I'm the give you my location type of fella. I had made up in my mind when I was shooting up the club for the second time that I was going to see where me and Absolutely went. Random. One of my phone numbers has been public for years, and as I write this, it still is. 470-792-0773. I say that because I have a personal phone that only the closest people to me in the world had a number to. And after I woke up from falling asleep after driving back home, I gave it to her and told her to start using it. I also let her know that I was going to give her a chance to be that woman in my life, the same way I told it to myself after I put a little thought into it. And then you should already know the conversation started about us being the us thing and all that entailed. It threw me for a loop that the first thing she brought up was sex, but after I put the dick down like I put the dick down, it didn't surprise me at all. She let me perform. The thought crossed my mind to make it about something more serious, but I just followed the conversation in the direction that it was going. I'm not positive, but in my mind, at some point over the next few days, the representative that I met at first was working overtime. Being big on communication out of the gate, we went through what my plans were for life, and I broke it down to a T for her. My lease was up in a couple months, so that was big on my list. I had a whole t-shirt shop that I no longer wanted, so I put out the idea that I wanted to sell all of the equipment so I could put the money into the van that I had bought one day because my spirit had moved me to. That rolled into the trips that I needed to take to finish the U.S. map we had received as a gift, and you know that took a minute because I had to break it all the way down for it. I don't know how long you've been following my story, but at that point we had covered 30 states already as far as the places we had been. I can't say where the idea came from originally, but in my mind at some point halfway through I got the bright idea to use it as a way of bragging without putting myself in it. Building a legacy will be the only way that I can ensure that Edna Jean's name will live forever. And between you and me, it's going to sound amazing when I can say with my whole chest that Edna Jean is taking a potty in every state in the continental United States. I wish I could say Edna Jean and Bear, but if you've been following my story long enough, you already know why he wasn't present for the whole trip. He is actually the reason I had Edna Jean if you know the story, but I still ain't telling it. Sorry. On the back end, that's the reason I actually got him back too. So I'm still gonna keep that one to myself. Sometimes being quiet works out in the end. Sometimes it doesn't. But I still ain't telling my side of the story either way, and that kinda is what it is on that. I only say that because once we started talking about it, us, I had to make that clear. There was a catch to me getting Bear back, and I plan to honor it like I do anything else I give my word on. I kind of want to just leave it at that, but I know you want to know exactly what I'm talking about. So let me get that out of the way in the least amount of words as possible, the same way I told it to Absolutely. I promised Bear Mama when she asked me to look after him that if she ever wanted him back, I would return him with no drama. I know I got completely off subject for a second telling you the birth story without telling you the birth story, but this is important. It's not going to come back into play until later on, but when it does, you will completely understand. Plus, this is the part of the story where Absolutely was informed about the promise, so I had to bring it up anyway. We discussed being transparent, and I was all for it. I should have asked her did she cook on a regular basis, but like I said, I never did. I'm actually still mad at myself about that one, so forgive me if I keep bringing it up. I asked so many questions, but I missed out. Never again. She asked me so many questions also, and in hindsight, I know that they all came from her representative. But since we haven't got to that point, let me keep the story going. After 20 questions from both parties, We got right into starting to plan a life together. I'm one of them people that believes in love at first sight, so at no point in time did I think I was moving too fast. But a thought crossed my mind, so I put it into the atmosphere. I called her right before she went to sleep and dropped it right in the messages. I told her that I wanted a woman that's gonna be about the business and enjoying life. I took a deep breath and doubled right back before she could respond. Never mind. I wanted to say a mouthful, but that ain't me. Lover, from the moment I stuck the tip in, I was looking to make something with you. I'm too old to be a player. I could, but I did it already. I had to work too hard to maintain it. I will never cross you. That's one of my strengths. So if us can be a thing, that is what I'm looking for. I could pull my weight. I can't even hold you though. Her response was about the ain't me part and how it blocked her ability to be vulnerable with me. In my mind, what I gave her was the most vulnerability she would see from me, but I guess she didn't catch it. The next day's conversation went right back to us making a life together and what she would need to make the transition. When she brought up buying another bed because she wanted more room because EJ and Bear slept in the bed with me, I should have been paying closer attention. But she distracted me with YouTube video links talking about towards women and how to treat them. By the time she sent me the fourth one, I wanted to tell her to stall me out, but I kept playing along. But in not one of them videos did it say the towards women don't cook. But that's another story. Next day we had a conversation about her past, and I don't know why women want to tell me what they did before me because I never want to hear it. It is not relevant to what I had going on with them at the time, and it takes everything inside of me to keep that to myself. In my mind, I thought that part of the conversation would entail flaws, triggers, and whatnot, but it didn't. All she really told me was that she was a woman that had touched hell and came out unscathed. In hindsight, I beg to differ, but I'll let you find out like I did. I wanted to tell her the truth and nothing but the truth, but I kept it to myself. Everybody in life is going through something that has made them into a better or worse person, but I'm not big on the conversational competition. I see no reason in life to be comparing who has dealt with the most trauma with somebody I am trying to build with, and I made my point and moved on. Then it happened. The conversation rolled around the women hitting on me, and now that I look back on it, that should have been the red flag to stop the game. I told her early on that once we locked in that I would never cross her, and her response went completely left. She tried to tell me that it wasn't me that she was worried about, and that's where she lost me. I know I said that I had met her representative, but I didn't explain what I meant by it. I have learned over the years from dealing with a ridiculous number of women that the first person I meet might not actually be the real person that I had to deal with, and absolutely was no different. Her real self is what I like to call management. And the first time I seen it, I should have let it go, but I didn't. I did what I always do when I'm placed in that type of situation. I just let it play out to see how far it would go. This lady told me, and I quote, "Bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks." I did everything in my power to maintain my composure because if I'm not mistaken, those are definitely the lyrics to a song. I was still confused as to where she was going with that, so I questioned what she meant by it, and I couldn't believe her response. In her mind, it wasn't me she was concerned with, but other women. She actually believed that women could not be trusted around her man. It didn't matter what type of time he was on. It was all on the woman involved, and that's where I had to cut in. Forgive me, but I have had so much pussy in my lifetime, it don't move me the way it used to. Don't get me wrong, the younger version of me might have been another story, but that's not who we talking about. At that point in my life, I was ready to be in a loving and committed relationship, big on the commitment part. But on the back end, I took her thought to heart and it moved me to clear the air where any and everything in that department was concerned. There is no woman alive that can make me cheat on my woman. You could leave me in a room with 10 naked supermodels and nothing inappropriate will happen. I am in control of my actions because I completely understand the consequences of them. I had been playing that dirty game with karma for so long, and after losing enough, I figured out how to win. She took it with a grain of salt, and the next thing she said blew my mind. Looking back on this situation in hindsight, I should have seen this coming, but I'm stupid. She told me, and I quote again, that she paid for my time gladly. All this came from said investment, which is why she wanted to be sure everything from everyone is respectful. Never let a good investment go to shit behind dumb stuff. I didn't even have a response to that. So she continued and let me know that she was preparing home for me because a man was on the way, and that touched my soul. No woman had ever spoken to me in that fashion, and it felt good. Don't get me wrong, I have heard some of the most clever lies and fabrications ever spoken by the opposite sex, but that line was new to me. It was so new that I actually told her that it was. She came right back to add to the fantasy. The thought crossed my mind to come back with my own high-power additives and preservatives, but I kept it to myself. There was no reason to paint a picture that may or may not be true depending on the circumstance, but I didn't tell her. She had whatever it was she had on her mind at the time, and being a person of action, I let the conversation go on one ear, run through my processor, then right out of the other one. A couple days later, for some odd reason or another, management decided to make another appearance, and it gave me the perfect opportunity to reiterate my point about feelings and how I deal with them. I let her know point blank period that under no circumstances would I argue, debate, or even go back and forth with her or anybody else in the world about their feelings. As far as I am concerned, your feelings are your feelings, and they have nothing to do with me. I can't put myself into the emotional side of any conversation because that ain't my business. She was more than welcome to feel however she wanted to feel, as long as she didn't expect me to feel with her. The beauty of this conversation was that I was on my way back to Atlanta and she had ordered food. The bad part was that at some point during my last visit, she had taken the opportunity to go through my phone to see who I was talking to and about what. That should have told me something, but I can't even hold you. It didn't bother me at all. I wish she would have told me that that's the type of time we was about to be on. But like I said, I met her representative and she said she wasn't on that type of time. After making a mental note of the lack of trust, I dealt with the situation because I had nothing to hide. My only issue was the fact that she waited to bring up the fact that she went through my phone, and I made a point to explain it. I had no problem with a woman going through my phone. That is a trust issue that I don't have, and I act accordingly when it arises. For me, every time somebody goes through my phone looking for dirt or whatever it is they are looking for, it just tells me that they don't trust me in one way or another. I don't have a problem with it, but how many times do you think I'm going to let somebody tell me that they don't trust me with their actions before it starts to become a problem? I can't tell you how she took it, but when I made it to her house, we had the conversation again, so I could be clear on what I meant and how I thought about the subject. She spoke her piece on how she felt about the subject, and I did everything in my power to try to get an understanding of where she was coming from. The only thought I had in my mind while she was talking was a guess at how many times she had been cheated on in her lifetime. I wanted to cut in on her emotional display and ask, but I didn't. I just made a mental note to ask her about it later on when she was thinking rationally, and I let her get it out. When she finished, I was ready to take the next step. I know I said at some point in the beginning that I never posted her on my social media other than in the costume, and here's the reason why. Being a celebrity or whatever somebody might describe my social media following as, I don't have an issue posting the woman that I am dealing with. I'm so cold-blooded with it, I usually just pass her my phone and tell her to introduce herself to the world. This time was no different, but she didn't accept the challenge. Instead, she handed me back my phone, looked me right in my eyes, and said, "You don't never have to post me." I almost dropped my phone. But quick hands come in handy. I had never had that happen, but I didn't let it throw me off. I needed clarity in this situation, and that was what I was in search of. Telling me that I never had to post her was a serious measure that needed to be addressed. I wish I had that conversation with management, but at the moment I was dealing with the representative and she was representing. After I made my point, I made sure to explain to her how the situation would play itself out later if she decided to change her mind. In the moment, feelings will have you saying anything to anybody, and I did not bring it to her in an emotional manner, and I needed her to understand that. I placed the opportunity to be posted on my social media as the official kickoff to our relationship, and she declined it. I didn't have a problem with that at all, but on the back end, she needed to know that for the duration of our relationship, that I would require her to keep that same energy on the topic. Please keep in mind I was dealing with the representative in this moment, and she let me know that she not only understood what I thought about her declining my offer, but also that it wouldn't come up anymore. I let it run through my processor for a few minutes while I took a 420 smoke break, and when I came back in the house, I made the first post. The date was April 10th, and I announced to my Instagram story that I was officially in a committed and loving relationship.